I mean, stay on our right of way, and I mean, waiving their fees. I think that's a great perk for them. I mean, because that's typically what, $1,600.
We're trying to find a way through
To get this thing
to
solved,
get it behind.
get this behind us.
And,
Do you want to vote tonight?
no, I've got to have a public hearing for the abandonment.
To waive the, that's right, to vacate.
Those are the facts, those are the issues, but no, you don't have to vote on it tonight. No. You want to talk about it, see what you would.
How are we gonna vote on the abandonment of Powell Street if we don't know?
Yeah,
I
you,
mean,
you almost have to advertise that you're also, what the deal is,
Yeah.
that you're proposing to give $4,000 of taxpayers' money to these, you
I
know.
think the actual advertisement really is the vacation of it.
Right.
But I think for
But I
prosperity
mean,
reasons,
if-
we've all discussed what it is.
there's no need to vacate it though if the deal falls through because $4,000, one side of the party doesn't agree. So,
And then we're gonna be back to square one.
Move forward and put it in regardless of the.
But Mr., and I've met with the gentleman, I'm losing, what's his name?
Golson.
Yes, he's very, very astute, and his big point, and, you know, was that it's not a deed, that if the town of Blackstone truly owned it, where's your piece of paper saying we own it? Now, of course, you know, back in 1904,
The state code is our piece of paper.
Right.
We can't produce a deed because there is none.
do you feel, Attorney Bacon, do you feel confident that without the deed, the town is still on solid legal ground?
Without the deed, yes.
Okay.
I had done some research into I think it was called the Plat Act. And I went back to the existence of the, you know, what the law was at that time. And so what it says is there doesn't need to be a deed. There just needs to be a plat that is recorded. Now, the one question that's out there is, you know, it has to be a recorded plat and then the town has to accept it. And so there's a question about, you know, what does that actually mean and things like that.
Yeah,
And so that's kind of a question that's out there, but it does just need to be a plat that's recorded. There is no
Right.
deed requirement.
Not to be held hostage by threat of litigation, but I tell you, if you get sued, you're gonna spill $4,000. And I'm not saying, Mr. Nash's points are well made, but I just think there's a lot going on here, and $4,000 may not be the worst money the town's ever spent. Because I will say, Mr. Golson, he's very sharp, and he's very adamant about that deed, and as a layperson, I'm kinda like, it makes sense. And what you said makes sense, but that caveat you just threw on there, the town never accepting the plat, scares me.
Yeah.
Because it's probably not in the minutes, or if it is, we can't find it.
Well, but the deed that they produced when they were here last time actually says that the property includes Powell Street.
Correct.
So there in itself, there's a deed
their
right there
deed.
that says Powell Street exists.
Aha. Okay, okay.
Yeah, but to be clear, the law does not require for those types of things that there necessarily has to be a deed, just
Okay.
a recorded plat and an act of acceptance by council.
Very good.
we do stuff every day, and I agree with you, Mayor, that people could possibly sue us on.
Absolutely.
And so it's one of those things where, I mean, I think the town should stick with what we do, and that's the reason that street is there for possible
Possible
development.
future
And I'm
use,
for closing it after that with an easement, so that way there's no future road or anything.
Right.
That's fine. But I just think taxpaying dollars, $4,000 going to an individual,
Yeah. I'd feel,
hard to swallow.
and it'd be a little bit more easy to swallow if they agreed to be sewer customers of the town, not future. You know, at least you'd be getting a little bit of revenue over time for
I
that.
think there is an explanation for that. One, Ms. Williams just put $4,000 on a new drain field.
drain field.
Okay, and two, Ms. Jones doesn't live in the house. There's nobody
Right.
residing there. That's why she doesn't want to connect to the sewer at this
Okay.
immediate time.
Very good. Members of council, you want to just let by common consent, the town manager proceed with the advertisement on the vacation? And then over the next month, you can talk amongst yourselves about how you feel about 4,000, or Mr. Nash has made it very clear, and it's a very sound position, but there's 7 of y'all. Is that okay?
You
Just
have to look at both sides. I mean, if she done spent $4,000 in that, you got, look at that too. I mean, my thought of it.
And and not to distrust anybody, but just to verify, do we have a receipt or any proof that there was actually, I mean, are we being told $4,000? They actually have the paperwork to show?
Being told $4,000.
It
Okay.
is if the sewer were put through there, is it tearing up their drain field? So I mean, she can still use the drain field. So it's not like we're tearing her drain field up.
Right.
So, now, if we were tearing her drain field up and she had to connect there,
Sure,
yeah,
that's a whole different animal there.
But
Yeah.
there's no disturbance of her drain field.
I will say that as you look at her house, if you guys are familiar with the old Powell residences over there, this line, Powell Street extends way into her front yard. Her
Not
carport
far.
is actually literally Powell Street. And that's within tens of feet of the front of her house. So this sewer line could be pretty dang, that's the reason for the 5 feet move back.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that there's some concern that it's, I mean, literally bushes in her front yard are on or adjacent to Powell Street.
Can council agree to let the town manager proceed with the proposed vacation of the Powell Street? And then meanwhile, in the next month, everybody can kind of search their soul and do some research and we can move along. All right, thank you, Mr. Nordbeck. I think we have we got a big committee report. Oh, we got speaking of money, we have the insurance committee. This is a situation that occurred on the alleyway improvement, I believe. I saw the pictures, it's a mess that happened there.
When the alleyway was being worked on, to the rear of the Acapulco restaurant, Trend, and that sort of thing, it was a drainage project only, is when we started. What happened was, and the engineer has put together a little narrative of what he believes happened. During the course of construction, the construction occurred in the sewer line, In addition to that, there's also mention of a 2-inch galvanized line in the engineer's letter that was leaking profusely. During the construction, somehow or another, that water backed up in the sewer line and came out the floor drain in the 203 and 205 South Main Street, which is Moncure Insurance, and then an adjacent office. It used to be an accounting,
Lee Cheney.
Lee Cheney and all that. So, I believe that the town's water leak that had been going into the sewer for years without incident, when the construction was going on and the sewer line became obstructed, that the water backed up into their office. That's my true belief of it. I wouldn't come to you and ask you for compensation. VML, their opinion was, well, you didn't know about it, so you're not, in our opinion, technically liable. And it's true, we didn't know the water line was leaking. We didn't know that there was obstruction in the sewer. The last thing I want to do is to cause exactly why we were over there. Is because water was running in the back doors of these buildings when it rained, not only the Cannon's property, but also the Moncure's property. And we, of course, did exactly what we were trying to prevent. VML, our insurance carrier, has agreed to pay as much as $10,000 on an occurrence such as this. If we look at their total invoicing, your package shows $24,391.25, which included Francisco to pour out the carpet and all the damaged furniture. It included removing a significant amount of friable asbestos floor material. If you remember, just like Bonnie Crowder, and we had to go back on her. And then it also includes replacing the carpet. In addition, after the committee, we discussed it, is there anything else that David would seek to have compensation? And we did receive today about $950 of compensation for painting and priming baseboard and sheetrock.
So it's around $25,300.
25, 341.25, of which 10,000 will be paid by the insurance company. The difference is paid by the
Is there a reason only 10,000 insurance will cover?
They initially said they weren't going to cover any.
Right.
And the 10,000, I think, is built into the policy. Read through the thing, but
So
there's-
that's better than I anticipated. So the people of Blackstone are being asked to pay $15,000.
badly.
Yeah. Well, I will say just for the members of the audience here, everything that's being discussed, Moncure Insurance has got receipts, photographs of the damage. I've never seen, we get a lot of requests here. This is well documented. The carpet being replaced. I don't even think this request covers some of their property that's been damaged. Is that correct? This is just the damages to their building, not lost.
They are not requesting compensation for any of the deaths
Right,
Because they thought it was sewer coming back on.
right.
So they were like, everything must go.
Sure.
I believe it was not sewer, I believe it was actually water leaking, but they didn't know at the time.
Right.
Admittedly, David said it didn't smell a lot, and that's why we weren't sure.
There wasn't
Coming up
sewage in.
coming up with it. They did not approach me on this. I went to David and said, you know, we'll send the insurance adjuster down there, take a look at it, and their response was no. But we do have a clause in our policy that they could pay up to $10,000.
Okay.
With the execution of a waiver of responsibility signed by,
And they're agreeable to sign that?
in order to get to 10,000, they'd have to do that.
So the
That would have to be a
request-
caveat of our motions.
The request is to pay $15,341.25 to reimburse Moncur Insurance for their damages from this town project that went awry. Would that be accurate to say?
Town water line, was
Okay.
Does it include the 10,000 from DNR as well? So they can include that also?
that the
Yeah,
waiver of responsibility would
they're
have
gonna
to be
pay 10,
executed.
town pay
What was the
15,341.25.
budget cost of the project itself back then?
One of
Were we under, over?
the water line and sewer line that we replaced were way over. About
I was hoping maybe you were gonna say.
That thing has been 3 to 4 decades overdue,
we've
that
been talking
project.
about it.
As someone that used to be there.
The whole thing started because Larry had actually had a set of drawings be done, because the Moncurs had approached him, and I think the Cannons may have approached him. Not long after I started working here, the Cannons approached me, and it was ankle-deep water in the alleyway, it was really wet. And, that was the same rain event where David Lee Wilkins was getting a cannon of roof dreams off the Baptist church directed at him that we re-diverted. Initially, we tried to have this paid for in the downtown revitalization grant, phase 2. That would have covered this.
You're right.
Well, we got turned down for that grant, if you remember, about 3 or 4 years ago. And so, came back, and we did it as part of the East End borrowing and the money that we borrowed to work on the treatment plants and the booster stations and all that. So we lumped it in together.
If council makes a motion and passes it, the funds, the 15,341 will come from where? Discretionary or?
Discretionary.
Okay. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
It's our budgeted figure for discretionary this year.
It was 40, wasn't it?
18?
18? We pay that off, we pay that in bonuses.
Discretionary Christmas bonus, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's bonuses.
That's our Christmas bonus.
Yeah, so it's gotta be some, I mean, we only got 5,000.
Have to do an appropriation or something. We'll do it.
Okay.
I mean, I see that obviously it's town's fault. I mean, we've gotta, hopefully, we can save in water possibly. Being our leak, we were actually
If
paying
there's a
for
ray
water.
of sunshine, I'm glad we found this leak, because we've been leaking a long
Long
time.
time.
It was a cavern under a portion of that alley, but there was so much asphalt that had built up over the years, that's why I never
Never saw it.
saw it. It needed to be found, and we're glad we did.
Members of council, what is your pleasure?
I move that we approve to accept the $10,000 of insurance and pay the remaining amount of
Contingent on the property owner
signing the
signing
waiver
the
of
waiver.
release. And the remaining amount.
15,341 and 25 cents. Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion? Ms. Jones, a second. Any further discussion?
Well, you said it's 2 different properties, so you have to get agreement about whether they own both buildings.
They own both buildings.
I think,
Yeah, they do. Very, very astute. They're 203 and 205. That's right. We have a motion that's been duly seconded. I'll ask for a roll call vote. It's over $10,000, starting with Mr. Nash.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. And then another recommendation was for the town to allow employees who are interested to participate in the VRS long-term care insurance at their expense.
at their expense, we're not asking for the town to match or anything like that. Jennifer still may have to determine whether it can be done as a payroll deduction, or if it has to be like a direct deposit from the individual employee, but it does require action from council to allow this benefit to be provided. And make the motion no cost to the
Yeah.
town.
Is there a motion to that effect? Ms. Thompson's moved. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll give a second to Mr. Morgan. But I will tell you right now, it's money well spent if you can do it, if you can afford to do it. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. That concludes insurance. And I believe we have a long list from the buildings, property, and cemetery, which I'm gonna recommend, Ms. Hasbrook, you can, you take them at your own pace, but a lot of them I think are pretty painting light poles and that sort of thing, but the floor is yours. This is the Buildings, Property, and Cemetery Committee.
Right, thank you. Daphne Cole came and presented about the Bluebird Trail throughout town, and after hearing her presentation, there would be no cost to the town, just recommending putting up some birdhouses, and there's some specific requirements for these, that we're allowed to have these birdhouses posted on town property.
And no maintenance in the future for the town, because the
Right.
group would maintain them themselves.
Okay.
I move that we approve the request.
Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. This is to allow bluebirds in places like Sea Park, Schwartz Tavern, town property. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
I received a call from Ms. Stewart to meet with her at the cemetery to discuss about some damage to the lot next to her husband's grave, and it is damaged. We felt that it was from the preparing a grave for burial back in November, and
When Lathan was driving in there with a piece of equipment, he made some ruts and.
We remember that.
And
told
that's
him,
still not
please let
been
it dry
fixed."
and then we'll get after it, and,
Yeah.
or Lathan will get after it.
Yeah, and then the ruts along the road in front of that, and just, it's been rainy and muddy, and as soon as we can get it dry out, if it did after last night, how many inches, we get 2 inches? The ruts in that roadway need to be fixed. But Ms. Lagasse came and wanted to have the headstones checked. She felt like the stones were getting chipped. So Philip is going to be checking on that. And then they wanted to clarify about some items that are on the graves that have been coming back on in plastic. And we've asked to be consistent with fair to all concerned that we maintain and do our policy as it is.
Okay, very good.
And then you also wanted to clarify about the urn burial price. So that was it is $200. It used to be $100, correct?
It used to be 100.
Oh, yes.
It was 200 if we dug the hole. And then in the policy process, it was agreed it'll be 200 across the board for everybody. And then we've had 2 recent interments, and I think that people were under the impression it was still the 100 and paid the $100. So I told them I'm going to clarify it at the next cemetery committee meeting. We're all going to understand and know. And the most recent urn burial did indeed pay the $200.
Yeah, it's in the policy y'all approved. It's clear.
But the 2 that were unclear, they only paid 100.
Only paid 100.
And that's fine.
I think
Just
they were
to
under the impression,
clarify.
I think they may have been told by perhaps the funeral directors that, not to their fault, because I hadn't told them
Right.
any different, but
It's fine.
they were sticking with what it had been, which was $100.
Then the town shop, Philip also advised about the moving the town shops in the future, and that was just information only at that point. Did you have anything to comment about that?
No, the upcoming budget, at this point, we have we have $400,000 in the proposed budget, equally shared between the general fund, the water and sewer fund, and the electric fund, for construction of a facility out there. I think that's all I can do right now and keep the budget balanced. If we have to pull back on the general fund portion of a little bit, money's always tighter in the general fund. We scratch the fine
Right.
more often. So we are proposing a $400,000 expenditure. And if it's not an actual expenditure in the fiscal year, we'll take that $400,000 and set it aside so that we have the cash when council decides to go over there. In addition, if you remember, we sold the Old Town Shop, and we still have the $70,000 from the transaction. The one thing that I am going to be asking, and I don't have any dollar figures at this very time, but we've been messing with those 2 tar tanks that sit down there at the corner of 2nd and Amelia Avenue that have been derelict and abandoned before I ever showed up in town. Okay, I think it was probably in the 80s the last time it was used. And we're working on trying to get those tanks removed. Bill Doherty with Cornerstone Engineering is providing the sampling that Waste Management is requiring, that sort of thing. And our expectation is to get those 2 tanks out. One is empty, the other one has about 3,000 gallons of solidified asphalt, yucco. And sooner or later, we're gonna have to deal with the thing, because it's gonna collapse, it's gonna fall, it's gonna rust out, something's gonna happen. And I've talked to Barbara, I bet you, over in her neighborhood, so goodness many times, but I think we're gonna make some progress and get it done, and use a portion of that $70,000.
But for the benefit of the audience, what we're talking about, folks, is basically the town, you correct me if I'm wrong, except for the Public Works Building, which we're gonna stay there, vacating and moving all the equipment you see across Church Street, across from the Old Town Shop, out to Babs. And the Beautification Committee has been, I think leading the charge on that to try to, improve the appearance there, and that's great news for the,
The goal is to move Public Works as well.
everything.
Yes.
Oh, so
So we
vacate.
will sell that property.
Wonderful.
It would be our expectation. Now, I can't determine whether the fuel tanks that we have are a liability to selling the property or they're a benefit to selling the property. But as it stands right now, I don't have a plan for the fuel portion of
Right.
it. Just moving the buildings and the equipment, we'll have to sit down and kind of resolve, do we want to? And I'll tell you very frankly, in Amelia County, they don't own any tanks or fuel pumps or anything. Southern States has a series of cards and buses, police cars, fire trucks, everybody fuels up at Southern States, and then they get a monthly invoice or a statement from them. That may be one of the options, that maybe we privatize the purchase of fuel and do that through a local vendor and not build a new fuel farm up at the township.
It's a convenient location for fueling, though. It's nice to see police cars and everybody fueling there.
As it stands right now, we would have to continue using it because I don't.
Right.
So that's not the eyesore. The fuel
No,
pumps
no,
aren't
that's
the
good
eyesore.
news, Mr. Town Manager. That's great. What else, Madam Chair?
Okay, we discussed the light poles being painted, and the paint sprinkler system at Swartz Tavern, the paint gazebo, light at Sea Park. Philip advised painting the portion of the projects that would be included in the upcoming budget. Now, there was a question about the light poles, whether they could be painted, and I think you were going to
Contact Sternberg Lighting, which is the manufacturer, the distributor, and find out if they need to be powder coated or will the paint adhere. Eric had a good point. He said, you know, if we paint them one time and find out they start peeling, gosh, are we in the painting business for perpetuity? So
Yeah.
we want to make sure whatever we do is a little more permanent.
That's good. That's good.
And then you were gonna get a cost estimate for the sprinkler system for Swartz Tavern, and then, we are, we're recommending, getting warm white lights on the gazebo so that it's more consistent with.
That's, I don't think a budget item, Dan can handle that
Excellent.
when he's doing his thing.
Excellent.
And then you, Jennifer was gonna be checking about the owners of the, buildings at Sea Park. So, we'll be following up with that.
You don't need to vote on that. It's just informational.
Information only, okay? And then we discussed about industrial park, the electric, do you have anything to add? That was information.
In the industrial park on the electric, this is back to Mr. Carlo's building, and I think that there's some question about what he can do, or will the State Corporation Commission, so we're eyes wide open. The proposal's been made that it is the belief of the town, since we already serve our facilities out there, if Mr. Carlo and the town were to enter an agreement or lease or transaction, and the town take possession of that building, would then the town be allowed to serve it with power and then allow him to lease it back in some form or fashion? I think it's a Hail Mary. I don't know if the State Corporation Commission is gonna be favorable with this, but, I think that the committee was agreeable to let, legal counsel approach the State Corporation Commission and do that sort of thing.
Excellent. That's a great idea.
And I think because of some of the relations, perhaps with the cooperative and that sort of thing, I think it, and I talked to Tessie this morning about it, I think she and I are in agreement, it'd probably be best to find a third-party attorney to handle that, so there's no conflict of interest issues or anything like that. So, asking council permission to try to find, with Tessie's assistance, somebody familiar with the State Corporation Commission processes and, engage them.
BML not help out, being that we
Might
have,
be able to, yeah.
It's not gonna hurt you to have somebody in Richmond who knows somebody, because one thing I'll say, any political connections that can help with the co-ops and SCC, because the town learned the hard way that, SCC and co-ops, they know each other very well.
They do. So,
lobbyists everywhere.
I think what I'd like to do is get you guys to be agreeable that we find a third party to alleviate the potential conflict with Tessie.
Common consent, is that fine? To give you that authorization to
To do.
lawyer shop?
Then we had discussed the town square fees, and, we did the comparison, yes,
I'm sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
don't mean to interrupt, but, I was thinking, the council never approved the policy either because we were waiting to see if we were gonna charge fees, so if y'all like the fees to include the whole policy as well, cause that had not been
Okay.
approved, okay?
okay.
We talking about the town square?
Town square
Okay.
policy. And then we are recommending the for-profits being a charge of $100 per day or $250 a weekend. As that is what is being charged for other property we have in the town.
I think we need to clarify just a little bit. It is for-profit ventures that'll be charged.
Businesses.
Nonprofits are not charged.
Right, correct.
And that the 100 and 250 are based loosely on Wigglesworth, using the Wigglesworth Stadium for one night. If you want to rent it for a softball tournament, it'd be $100. It's actually 300 reals worth. But I think in discussion with the committee, they agreed that if you rented it all 3 days, you would get some sort of reduction instead of $100.
When you say weekend, we're talking Saturday and Sunday only.
Friday and
Friday
Saturday.
night, Saturday.
Oh, Friday and Saturday. So Billy's Beer and Barbecue want to have a throwdown, want to have a little Woodstock out there. I don't like to pay $250. And of course, this requires council. The council would approve
Correct.
each and every request. Okay, very good.
Alcohol's involved.
Right.
But I think DBI handles them for nonprofits.
Yes,
Okay.
but for for-profits,
So
it comes to
for-profit has to
council.
come back to council.
Even with not alcohol. So suppose the local newspaper wanted to have a subscription drive all weekend. Council got to.
Come back
Council
for
gotta
a
approve it.
for-profit adventure.
I think it's a good
We're
idea. It
accepting
should,
money.
because the spirit of it is for nonprofit. But I think this is good. Now we have a fairness issue that we can answer.
Yes, and the application is in the packet, so we'll just, we can add with your approval if we.
Is that a motion to approve that policy? Is there a second to Ms. Hasbrook's motion to charge businesses $100 a day or $250 a weekend to use the town square? With council permission, and Mr. Miller has seconded.
And approving the policy.
And then also approving the policy in your packet with the application process. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Yes, Ms. Peggy Stewart.
I just want to say before we leave building grounds to the cemetery, I have something I'd like to say to the cemetery.
Okay, can we finish our report and then we'll let you, okay,
I
go.
just don't want you to get past.
Well, don't you worry, we're not, all right, go right ahead, Ms. Hasbrook.
Okay, then we discussed the Bon Secours lease. Anything more on that?
I have spoken with Eileen Gerlica, who is a real estate manager for Bon Secours, and indicated that the 2 points that she brought up that were noted in the lease, we have them closed. I think Jennifer's actually highlighted them for you. The first of which being an $80 per square foot allowance, and using Odell Architects. I think that was done in the original construction, that they were given X number of dollars that they could select finishes and they could have items specific to what they were requesting, cabinetry and that sort of thing, and the $80 a square foot, I think, was met. That first issue, and she did not contest that. She said, I believe that to be the case. And on the telemedicine, she loosely said, but I think we need to put it in writing, that the telemedicine contribution, I'm not aware of any telemedicine.
It was a big part of the reason that building was built. They were gonna do telemedicine and it just never really, didn't take off, but now.
She asked about it, and I asked if she's asking for the $18,000, and she said at this time she is not asking for the $18,000. But I think she is asking for something in writing addressing both issues.
We obviously agreed to it. In 2009, when that project was approved, the town agreed to give them $18,000 for telemedicine.
I just don't know if we've done any of it to this point. And she's not aware of any equipment that was there, and I'm not aware.
I would say no, but we can verify, but if we agree to that, we need to live up to it. So what, do you need a motion on that, or?
Yeah, but if it were agreed upon then, was it the assumption that they were going to do it fairly soon to benefit the citizens of Blackstone?
Yes.
Or wait 20 years?
Yep.
And then do it?
Yep.
To me, I mean, it's still in the lease and it's gonna happen, but,
Say $18,000 if you get it done before this calendar year. If not, yeah,
you can't just drag it out.
right.
We'll discuss that, but I think the intention was that that would be part of the initial construction and activities, and 10 years later.
Now you're asking for it.
But it's
I
so,
don't think you have a pending $18,000 charge, but
Right.
I do think we all recognize it's in the lease.
Right.
I don't think we paid it previously, and it will await Bon Secours. We won't prompt a payment until they produce a plan of what they would like to do and how they go about doing it.
all right, and Greenview Cemetery?
Yes, do you have any updates about that, sir?
I'll do my best here. Greenview Cemetery is something that Wayman Mitchell and I and Barbara had started talking about 6-8 months ago. Greenview Cemetery, as you know, the historic African-American cemetery, is actually located in the county. It is not within the town limits. But I think there's plenty of people from Blackstone who've been buried there and in the surrounding area. As you know, the portion that Mr. Hawks owns, which is fronts on West Entrance Road, is well maintained. I mean, the grass is cut and taken care of. But it's the historical portion that is not on his property that isn't terribly well maintained. There's no perpetual care. The grass is traditionally very tall. I think there've been some articles in the paper of people volunteering and doing some things. When Barbara approached me originally about this, did a little research in the state code, and there indeed is a code section in the state of Virginia code that does permit the state to contribute, I believe it's $5 per grave annually for the maintenance of African-American cemeteries where the establishment was prior to 1900. Well, we found a headstone from 1897.
Did you really?
We did.
One,
And there's one.
only one.
That we can confirm. There may be more, but on findagrave.com, which is a great clearinghouse for such things, there's one from 1897. So I think we may meet the minimum standard. I think there's still a lot to do. One of the things that Barbara sent me recently was an article from the Washington Post talking about East End Cemetery.
Yep.
I think we forwarded to you guys, or Jennifer forwarded it to y'all. That has some great information in it, where the Virginia Outdoor Foundation, who is a holder of conservation easements in the state of Virginia, probably the largest holder of conservation easements, not the deed, but the easement that overlays the property, has assisted several big cemeteries in the east end of Richmond. I believe was one of them. There was another one, but I'm not sure exactly where it was. And these are thousands of graves. We're talking maybe hundreds of graves. And they assisted them with some grant money to get started. They also assisted them with making application to the state for the receipt of the monies. I think on Thursday at 10 a.m., Barbara and I are going to meet with a representative from the Ward Burton Foundation. Mr. Inch, we all know.
Tom, yep.
And he represents an organization that holds conservation easements. Specifically, I guess their major holdings are in the ACUB area.
Army
If you have
Combatant
property
Units.
within a diameter of a certain radius of Fort Pickett,
Yep.
you can be eligible for this conservation easement. So I think Tom is the logical person to start with to see if Ward Burton Wildlife Foundation would assist us in the same way as the Virginia Outdoor, on a much smaller scale, in the same form and fashion in which the Outdoor Foundation assisted East End Cemetery in Richmond. So we're gonna meet at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, or on Thursday, and try to get that ball rolling
This Thursday.
this Thursday.
Have you, now, findagrave.com is nice, but do we know the grave actually, do we also
I've
have
not
to,
physically gone out there.
do we
no.
have to have it physical proof?
I think that before we ask for the money, we better be able to find
So we
it.
need to find that grave.
And it wouldn't be the town receiving money, it would have to be in the ownership of a 501c3. So a church would need to,
So there's a lot of machinations.
Not a way Historical Society could do it.
correct.
And in fact, maybe something that Frank Russ and Tommy Wright assist us with making the request to the Department of Historic Resources and the DCR. the property agency.
No, yeah, I was gonna say
We're trying to set the table for long-term maintenance, not just one time, not cutting it this year.
Right.
And then what do we do next year? We want to create potentially some sort of a 501c3 group that can own the property, okay? But what I'm trying not to do is get the town enmeshed in everything, and the town's finances and taxes and all that sort of thing. But I do think we can at least be
The impetus to get it going.
And Christine will be in,
I'll
Christine
be
will be
there
in the
too.
meeting.
family that,
Yeah, she's gonna be in the meeting too.
I'll be there too.
Yeah,
we can only have two now.
right, that's right,
Whoever
just
that's gonna
two.
be.
That's you.
Yeah.
Can't have three council
We
people.
called earlier, I think
Two
Christina.
council people,
Okay, I'll be there, you're gonna be there?
yeah.
Well, then Mr.
Actually,
Wilkins, if you
Yeah,
could.
Christina Barber would be fine.
We're the building grounds.
All right.
No, you can't go,
Could we
Tom.
also, meanwhile, we wouldn't hurt to maybe have some discussions with Nottaway County.
Absolutely. But what I want to find out on Thursday is, what can Ward Burton Foundation possibly do? They pay property owners for the conservation
Right.
easement. I don't think that's even close to what we would be considering. But maybe they can help us with things like title search, because I think the title could be a little tough to determine. And so that's probably the biggest expense, is really getting the title resolved. Who owns what?
Who owns what?
Getting signatures and that sort of thing. Is there some assistance that Ward Burton Foundation through ACUB potentially could provide us to write the easement, to get the title work done, to create the 501c3, things like that, that legal activity, maybe even a survey? Are there things they can do? And he may say, no, there's nothing we can do, and then we gotta go to Plan B, and the Plan B would go to Nottaway and say there's some assistance.
All right. So that's informational, but that's where, there are, that's a big issue in the community about upkeep of Greenview, and that's very good. And last, Ms. Hasbrook, y'all had a closed session?
And there were no recommendations for that.
All right.
There's not a recommendation, but I am gonna ask that the council, because we haven't gone into closed session, and we can do that at the next meeting, but I think that there needs to be, in order for somebody to purchase property, and so everybody knows it's in the industrial park, there's been a request to purchase 21 acres of industrial.
Nice.
An appraisal has been conducted, but before we can do anything, as our attorney has astutely advised us, you gotta hold a couple public hearings.
Declare it surplus and all that, and then advertise what you're proposing to sell it for.
So I don't think there's a recommendation, because I don't think the committee was ready to divulge a name
Okay.
or do any of those kinds of things, and that would be, the council would authorize advertisement of a public hearing for
May.
declaration of surplus, and then also the project itself, then we can present that.
Do you need a closed session before we do that, or?
It's up to you guys if you'd like to discuss it in closed session. I don't think it's a particularly prickly issue.
Not a hot.
It's just to have a hearing. But I think you can agree by common consent. You got the authorization to advertise a public hearing.
You okay with that? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
I did say I'd recognize Ms. Peggy Stewart. You had a Lakeview Cemetery issue?
I just want to come up here first, thank you for hearing me.
Yes.
And Christine Hasberger, thank you for meeting with me in the cemetery. I have met with Philip since November. This has been going on with the ruts by Charles Stewart's grave. I have spoken with Eric. I have called out to Joe McMillan's funeral home. I have spoken face-to-face with Mr. Toth. Now, November to now, that's 5 months to drive by and see ruts by your husband's grave. And you keep getting put off. I feel like it's just being rolled over and dropped. And I realize the responsibility lies on Mr. Toth. He did the damage. But it is up to the cemetery committee to have him stand up to his obligation to fix what is wrong.
Was he acting as an individual or acting on behalf of a funeral home?
He's an independent contractor, acting on, I guess he's contracted with McMillan.
Okay.
Funeral Home.
And I think since November, this has just run on too long. As if that's not enough, Christine has pictures. He drove whatever piece of equipment it was over my husband's military foot marker. It no longer sits straight, it sits like this at an angle. I had been willingly, as I told Christine, if the town could have lifted it and put some dirt under it, I was willing. But I am not willing, as I told her, and this is what I want to be on record. When Mr. Toth is addressed, and I hope it's taken care of before the next town council meeting, or I'm not going to be real pleasant, okay?
Was he agreed, has he agreed verbally to fix it? He has? Because, I mean, Lathan, usually what Lathan says he's gonna do, he's
Would you
gonna do.
like, I mean, I wouldn't even mind giving a motion that if it's not fixed within 2 weeks, the town does it and then sends them a bill for their services.
Sends the funeral home a bill?
They're the initiator.
Okay.
And does that include paying for Simmons to lift this monument and reset that?
I would say that would incorporate resetting it, whoever that be. I mean,
Okay.
hopefully
That it's
Toth could do
fixed.
it himself. I mean, I don't know.
So your motion is
I
to?
know, I'm sorry, I do not want Toth to do this, because I do not feel that he
Well, let's be,
is the expert, he's not, it's not his expertise
Agreed.
in setting the stone. He knows how
that would be a
to-
monument company normally,
Yeah.
I would think. So, Mr. Nash, your motion is to send a letter to Mr. Toth advising them, to a Miller Funeral Home, advising them that,
They have 2 weeks.
Can I try verbally for?
That's
Yeah,
fine.
let
Yeah.
Philip call him
Okay.
first.
Yeah, that's fine.
Make a couple
But I
phone
mean,
calls and
5
see
months
how it
is,
goes.
I mean, it hasn't been wet the whole 5 months. I mean,
Which is why we should call to get it done quicker.
correct.
And that's what I'm getting at. It's been
Right.
5
I
months,
didn't-
and
I
in
was-
the 5
yeah,
months, it
that's-
could have been fixed.
that's
by now.
unfortunate. We thank you for your patience.
Thank you all.
Absolutely. And we hope to have a positive report next month. All right, folks, look, it's 8:50.
I don't care what time it is, you're gonna listen to me.
Yes, ma'am, Sharon Dalton. Greenview, Lakeview.
Whatever.
I'm ready for some Ocean View.
Well, really, I wouldn't even have been up there saying anything except for your last council meeting. I've had like 7 phone calls from people that listened to the rant last meeting from Gail Legacy, the lies she told. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
This is a committee meeting? Must have been a committee,
Yes,
okay,
it's
okay.
it's on YouTube.
Okay.
Your committee meeting is on there. I've had 7 phone calls from people that watched it. Said, who is this? And I ain't gonna say the words I used for her, but.
Okay.
Anyway, that's beside the point. But I'm gonna start from the beginning, because she brought up a lot of things, hurtful things. My husband died May of 2016. Ordered the stone. Billy Johnson brought me some topsoil and dumped it there. I had a crew who was gonna spread it all over all my lots I bought. I'm gonna plant the seeds, gonna do everything, coordinating this with getting the stone put in. Well, then Simmons calls me and says, Sharon, we got a problem. He said, town council said you cannot put the stone at Cecil's head. This went through like several committee meetings that I came to. And each one was just like starting all over again, the raw agony that you go through with the death. And this has just brought it all back again. It has never stopped. I go visit Cecil almost every day. If I'm in town, I'm there every day, sometimes several times a day. And then we had the meeting. We finally got it resolved to get this headstone put in. But this time, over a year had passed. My crew to do everything was gone. Simmons came to set the stone. I said, look, I asked him to set them down deep in the dirt because the dirt had to be spread and everything. They said, we have to put it with the ground level for his military stone. So I said, well, what's it going to cost me? Because I wanted to drop it down in the ground 4 inches. And they said no, that they had to put it level. And I said, well, what's it going to cost me when I get everything done and get it back to have you come lower it to ground level? And they told me they would do that for nothing. I mean, that's fine. But why people takes it upon themselves to try to hurt somebody for something they have no knowledge of whatsoever, I do not know. I'm in the process of getting all this done right now. In fact, I talked to Philip about that. But then she brings up about hoses watering the grass. I did use the water 2 or 3 times over there. I have never gone up and left water running. I maybe used, I'm sure there's a water meter on that, and I'm probably the only one that's ever used that faucet, because you can hardly take everything you can do to lift up and down. But probably not over 50 gallons of water's been run through that water meter in the last year. So that's something that y'all can just, for her to go say, thump the things. Well, we had this council meeting about the statues. You all made all the rules, and we all came back and talked. In the end, they talked about concrete, metal and concrete. And I said, just a minute. Put this in the paper, so you'll have to remember it. I said, Cecil's statue is not made out of concrete.
That's right.
And they said, what's it made out of? This was a discussion. You all just talked about this, so you should remember it. You said, what's it made out of? And I said, I'm not sure what it is, some kind of resin or something, but it is not concrete. Philip said, you can keep the statue. You print it in the paper. Cecil statue.
Statue's still there and looks wonderful.
Well, I have it down right now. I went and got it because I wanted to stop all this stuff. I just can't take it anymore.
So
My heart's been broke for
bear with
almost
me.
3 years
Bear
now.
with me. I want to help you solve your problem. Are you appearing tonight to get formal public approval of your statue?
Not right now, no. But I want to set the record straight for all the things that were said bad here.
Okay.
And-
So I'll be honest, I did not hear them, so
She
I.
deserves the right to be able,
Certainly,
because
certainly.
it was.
Okay.
It was bad, wasn't it?
But your statue has not been banned by this council.
The statue, I heard Philip say it on YouTube. Well, if it's not out of concrete, it's got to be moved.
Oh, she says
But
concrete, marble.
it had already been said that it was okay.
Exceptions would go before the council.
We had an
We
exception.
went to the committee and the committee didn't, that it needed to be removed.
Okay.
We made an exception that night. Said the statue could stay.
Did the
We
committee
printed
do
it in the
that?
paper.
Okay. All right. So what is the other situation going on? The headstone now, you got permission?
I'm going to be working over there. I don't want to hear nothing said about it. It's gonna be all tilled up, it's gonna be smooth, it's gonna have good grass put in, and I am going to be using the water, but I have never gone up and left water running over there, ever. I don't even do that at home.
Well, let me ask you a question, and Mr. Van Riebeck, I'm just curious, as a matter of policy, are members of the public allowed to go use that faucet in the cemetery?
That's what they're there for.
Okay,
I would
okay,
think.
all right, so far, you're so good.
But
Okay.
anyway, it's just been an awful 3 years. It's gonna be 3 years in May, and all
Very
this is
sorry.
still going on, and it has just torn my heart out constantly.
And we're sorry about that.
But,
That's-
I mean, out of respect for everything that's going on, and I had already told Peggy before even Gail came to this meeting, that I was taking the soldier down right the day after Easter, carrying it over to Amelia, to the guy that was going to refurbish him and have him fixed to where he would last forever. But
Okay.
he is down now.
Okay.
He is not there. But I just want everybody to know that I did not do anything that was not approved, and that I have done everything in my power to fix things over there. Ben Green even came up when he was still on the council. He came up one Sunday morning, right after they had set the stone. I was sitting up there, I was crying, because nothing was fixed.
Well, I'll also say this.
You can't keep a crew standing on standby for a year and a half.
You've been
to
a
do
very,
the job.
you have been a very diligent, meticulous keeper of Cecil's grave, and it's one of the better looking grave sites in the cemetery. And I
As
think you
long
should.
as Sharon Dalton is alive,
Yes,
Cecil Dalton will never die.
I mean, I've never heard a complaint, nor have I seen anything that would merit a complaint about that grave site.
I don't
So,
understand why people are so jealous,
Well,
or whatever the
we don't wanna
word
get
is,
into-
that they
we-
would try
yeah.
to cause a hurt.
and I'm sorry things were said personally at the committee level, because that's
That should have
unfortunate.
been blocked out of it, or something, so put on public for everybody to
Does
listen to.
does any member of council have any questions for Ms. Dalton, or any comments? I don't mean to, listen, we're sorry for everything you've gone through, and you've always tried to play by the rules, and we appreciate that.
I've talked, I know maybe people think this is crazy, but I've talked to Cecil about it.
Well, that's fine.
And I know that he wouldn't want all this turmoil going on.
No, he would not, he would not, he would not.
But,
Thank you, Ms.
when I
Dalton.
got my statue all redone and everything, I would like to put him back.
Okay,
But I wanted him refurbished, and I didn't want to take him down before Easter, but after all that happened at the meeting, I went over and got him.
okay. Well, just let us know when you get it refurbished, and hopefully it'll
I have
comply with the
looked
policy.
I have looked into getting one made almost similar to him, but to get him done with that finish and everything, so that he's done, it's about $3,500.
Well, listen, I hate to move along, but I've got to move
I
along.
know you do.
And I'm sorry, we let you spend, listen, and we appreciate everything you've done.
I have spent all my hours here that I could spend somewhere else too, so
Well,
5 minutes
you're a good
of your
citizen.
time is okay.
You're a good citizen, we thank you, we thank you. Folks, we're going to get into unfinished business now, and we're going to roll into the business. What's that? Please tell me please tell me it's about a cemetery. I mean, oh my goodness, look what, Beverly Ham.
All
Beverly.
right, you guys just made a policy about the town square fees for profits, but you also approved that the 100-mile yard sale could be in that.
That's, they're individuals, they'll be part of that, they're not businesses.
Okay, so it's only for-profit businesses,
Correct,
not for-profit.
correct.
That's
Correct.
needs to be clarified.
Yeah, and it was done a few years ago, actually. The first year they had the yard sale, they actually used that, well, about the fifth year they use the square.
Well, but that's just an exception to the yard sale. If I wanted to rent the park, just me, and have
Yeah.
a birthday party,
Sure.
I'd still have to pay $100, right?
You're
Or
not for profit. You're not making money.
No, that's the policy
As long
you,
as-
You're not
not the
making-
policy you
Well,
adopted
hold up, but he
tonight.
bringing up a question though. He's saying if he wanted to rent the square to have a birthday
He
party.
can't. It's not for profit.
Is he profit?
That's what we want. We want our citizens to use the facilities.
Right,
So in other words,
If
it
he's
wouldn't
out
cost.
there selling his paintings, yes, that's for profit.
Okay.
right.
So in other words, as long as he's not making a profit off of it, he can use it.
Correct.
right.
We want everybody to have
Correct.
birthday parties.
That's the
and
spirit of the
reunions
square.
and-
But people for the yard sale are out there to make money, yeah.
But we approved that tonight as a
But
special.
it's part of a regional endeavor that it's just a really unique situation.
They're not gonna come in
Just
every
wanted
week.
to have that clarified.
Clarity is good, and a lot of times it's gray here, and I
I think
agree.
I hear that the chamber may want to pay the $250 fee.
What's that?
I think the chamber wanted to pay the $250 fee.
No, the chamber does not want to pay
Only one day.
Folks, Madam Clerk?
We just approved, well, we approved earlier for the consent agenda, the 100-mile yard
Yes.
sale, but, Mr. Whitlow asked to have the sandwich competition approved. I don't know if you want to speak that.
It's on May 21st. We're going to use the square again for the second competition this year. And just like last year, we'll get the liability insurance and alcohol license all sent over to the town clerk
Is that Tuesday night? What night of the week is that?
Tuesday.
Tuesday night?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Motion made and duly seconded to let the DBI second annual sandwich sampler take place on Tuesday, May 21st from 5 to 68. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, folks, look, it's 9 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, we're leaving. So, business license update. Business license update. And like I said, there's no.
The baby, we can adjourn now.
No, we're not. She can just go outside.
Make us a minute.
Okay, so we were advised at the last meeting to have Tessie send letters to all of the businesses that have not complied with audit.
Okay.
So as of now, we have 16 businesses that have not complied that she'll be sending letters, and I'm gonna send you an updated list.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yes, and my office is working on that, drafting a letter to send out.
We're sure all 16 of those are still in operation, or are these defunct businesses?
Some may not be, but we've
Heard
sent letters.
otherwise.
Yeah, right, we haven't heard otherwise. They haven't contacted us and let us know they're out of business or
So if 16 have not complied, roughly how many have complied?
over 200. Over 200.
So we have over 200 business licenses in Blackstone.
270, yeah.
Interesting, okay. Very good, very good. Thank you, Brittany. All right, next up, we have under unfinished business number 2, the 6th Street ditch easement. And council had asked that this be discussed this month. The manager is requesting direction on either a liability waiver be presented to Ms. Blevins or a permanent easement be presented to the property owner.
I think we talked about it at the very end of the meeting last month
We did.
when we awarded the contract, and I think council wanted to take a month to decide exactly what it is, if anything, that the council wanted to do. I had talked to Tom and other folks, when we did the ditch behind the Grubbs house, that was done with a straight up easement. We actually have a maintenance easement on that pipe that we did back there. Because we had to cut several trees down in our yard and do that sort of thing, and I didn't want to enter that property without permission. And, but that is done as an easement, and I think there'd been some discussion about, is there a waiver of liability, like, we're asking David to sign long-term for the pipe? Either way council decides, and, or nothing. I guess there's a third way.
The project is ongoing, I understand, on 6th Street.
There is a sewer line that runs through the Grubbs, correct?
What's the sewer line that runs down through the Grubbs? That's
Right. What does Ward C think about this? It's your ward. Do you feel
I think it should be an easement. I mean, it's
a maintenance easement?
not her water running through her yard.
So, Mr. Wilkinson, you're in favor of maintenance easement where the town, would be liable? Who disagrees with that? Does anyone disagree with the maintenance easement?
I disagree with the fact that sorry, Tom, that you say that it's the town's water. Well, if that's the case, then there should be an easement on Jenny Davis Bunn's property right up the street. There should be an easement on my property. I mean, there's tons of properties that should be easements.
The other girls in here, they got water.
I feel like the town is, and she's done her due diligence, and I love Ms. Blevins for it. But we've done our share, I feel like. And this is the council vote, so I mean, if I'm in the minority, that's perfectly fine. And I live with it.
Right.
So.
Okay. Council speaks through motions, or council could put out, you don't have to do it tonight because the project isn't finished yet. But at some point, when this project is done, Ms. Blevins is going to want some peace of mind and some direction.
I think it'd be better for us to wait until the
Make sure it's done
project
correctly.
is completely finished before we do it.
How long do they think? I mean, to me, it seems like it's taking a little long anyway.
Well, the rain has really
set it back.
Plus, we've had a couple problems with it too, right?
I can't say they've had problems, but the head wall has been a problem for me. And I rejected the work that they did on the head wall and required them to do something. They were struggling with it today, and I called Jason. I said, this probably is not exactly what we talked about out here on the site. Mr. Miller and I went over to the house
No
the other
extra
day.
cost to the town. This comes out of the contractor's pocket, correct?
This is within the scope of his contract.
Okay, well,
Fighting it
There
today.
today, it doesn't look like there's fall from the drop inlet in her backyard to the one at the street. She's gonna have a big pond right in the middle of her yard.
I don't believe that's the case. I don't think there needs to be fall from the top of the inlet. We need to look at the bottom of the inlet. That's where your fall needs to be. I need to
Right.
measure it at the bottom.
But that's what I'm saying, that it comes down and goes back up.
The top is just to take the surface water from that particular area. Okay? But fall is actually the elevation of the pipe.
The fall in the pipe is, I'm sure is fine. I'm
They have to
talking about
regrade
in
it.
the yard.
If-
The grading is gonna come down, it's just gonna settle in the yard because it has nowhere to go.
No, that's not the case, because it can do that. It has to flow into the top of that drop in. So when they grade it,
Let's go
if
down
it
there
doesn't
and
flow
shoot
in
it.
there, then
'Cause I
they
don't think
haven't
the grade
completed
is
what they
right.
said.
Is there an estimated time of completion right now? I mean, I know weather's,
If we don't get another boom rain, that rain last Monday really.
right, last night, yeah.
I would say probably another week to 10 days.
Okay. So at the May council meeting, do y'all want to vote on whether we go maintenance easement or not?
Yeah.
Right now, who's leaning toward maintenance easement? Right now, who's? Some undecided. Okay. All right. But it looks like to me, I think you've got support for maintenance easement, but I've been wrong before. We will have an answer next month, Ms. Blevins, but it's looking favorable. Comprehensive Plan Survey, Development Director, Ms. Jackson Wilson. The survey says. Did the council get high approval ratings, I hope? I know I did.
38.
Sorry.
If you're not making people mad, just say that you're not doing your job.
That is correct. That is correct. And now that I turned 50, I've learned this.
Thank you for guiding me
I'm
into
learning
it.
it.
Thank you for
I'm gonna
guiding me
lead
into
you
it.
into it, love. Brittany, you take care of yourself.
Take care, Brett.
All right, 68 responses. Ugh.
Wow.
Well, I can't complain. I didn't fill it out. I didn't do my part.
It's just one sheet of paper,
One sheet, okay.
front and back.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Take it, to one
Oh, I'm
sheet.
sorry.
That's both of them. Take it apart.
One side shows page,
Here,
Which side do you want to start first, on the shopping or
you got
the
two on yours, don't you, Sheila?
income opportunities?
shopping. Question
Shopping,
1
number
through
one.
10 is
Gotcha.
on one side. Questions 11 through 20 is on the other side. We're gonna start with lessons 1.
That's a time out. 68 responses.
Transportation was a little low.
68 responses. You can't judge.
Okay, so the first questions 1 through 10, this is the results of having the survey online, having hard copies available, and we did have 68 responses. And although 68 may not seem too large of a number, it's the most responses that we've received from the town, far as trying to get input from the community.
Okay.
So, just wanted to point out a few things. Pretty much I'm showing you what the percentage was for each question. And in the graph, we're only showing disagree, agree, and strongly agree. So for example, with number 2, we're showing that the question for number 2 on the survey was, it is safe to walk around the area at night. Pretty much we're showing that most of the people definitely agreed with that. Number 7, talking about transportation being available and affordable. Pretty much we showed that most of the people agreed. It was pretty close to being about the same percentage for those who disagree or strongly agreed. But overall, we're showing that people agreed and strongly agreed that the transportation is there.
Number 10's a big one, folks. Number 10 is astonishing in my book. Number 10, the statement says, most of my closest friends have young children. 47% disagree. That shocks me.
Aging community.
I mean, that's big there. And not necessarily in a good way. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Mr.
No problem. We can go to the other side on we're number 11 through 20. I just wanted to point out a few, pretty much. Showing about the employment with number 12.
Yep.
We showing what the response was for competitive employment opportunities being available for all ages. Number 13, talking about affordable and efficient housing being available. Bless you.
Bless you.
We showed that 42% disagreed. Say about 30% agreed. When we look at number 16, in reference to needing more day activities for our elderly, and we show there that 42% strongly agreed.
That's interesting. That's good.
Number 17, the lack of child care and out-of-school programs. We show that 46% agreed, strongly agreed. And we look at the lack of family recreation being available for all ages, number 19. We also showed that 44% strongly agreed. And we still have a high percentage of those who agree as well with those. And I'm just going to say number 20 in reference to the town communicating with the residents and whether or not we need improvement. Guess we have some room for improvement. But we weren't too bad with that either. So these are the results. These are going to be available for everybody or anybody who would like to. And I'll be talking more on this when comprehensive plan comes.
Comprehensive. Thank you, Ms. Jackson Wilson. Even though it's just 68 responses, that's good. It's interesting data. And at 68 is, you know, heck, there are polls in the country for president where they probably poll 68 people in the state to decide who's voting for somebody. So that's pretty interesting. Moving right along to unfinished business number 4. I'd like to bring that back next month. I apologize. My last 2 weeks I have been occupied with other things, and that's not y'all's fault, but my fault. Carriage Museum update. Attorney Bacon on the Carriage Museum. We're going to pave that parking lot yet?
Not yet. Yes, we're going to, as long as you all are good with that. Anyway, we had a very productive meeting regarding the Carriage Museum. I believe it was last Monday, correct? I think that's right. Anyway, so we went over everything. The people that were there, we had representatives from VDOT that were there. We also had Mr. Thomas, Robert Thomas, who was a representative from the Thomas family. And then the town of Blackstone was represented too. So we met with everyone to try to come up with a solution, just as kind of a little memory jogger. This was an issue where the Thomas family was not satisfied with the way the Carriage Museum was operating and running. And then the reason why VDOT was involved with this is because the town had received a lot of grant funds from VDOT to, build and maintain the Carriage Museum. So we wanted to make sure we were in compliance with VDOT as well. It was a very good meeting. We had some good recommendations that came out of the meeting, and I wanted to share with them tonight. Number 1 was to pave the parking lot and to make sure that it is ADA compliant. And Philip, does the council need to approve that, or is that something that's in the works and already? Okay.
In the proposed budget. Very good, very good.
The second is a blacksmith shop. There's agreement that some form of a shop needs to be done to fulfill the town's obligations in the grant. But it's not specific on, what type of shop, anything like that. So my understanding was that Philip was looking into different options for that to see what was available. So at this point, we don't have anything concrete to take back to council. Number 3, there was an issue with being able to staff the museum at different hours. Mr. Thomas was displeased that the town, didn't have it open when he and his family felt that it should be open. And so one thing that was discussed was getting with the new volunteer committee. And what is the exact name of that committee that's being created?
Community volunteer committee,
Tourism.
we're having our tourism.
Okay, yes, so one thing that we had discussed was getting with the tourism committee, and the tourism committee, talking about getting some volunteers to.
Weekends.
Yes, to work specifically on weekends and also to try to keep it open when there are big events in the town as well. And then kind of going hand in hand into that, we had also discussed the possibility of Mr. Thomas doing some training for people to make sure that they're educated on the carriages and the different things at the museum as well. And then another issue was the signage, and my understanding from discussing with the town manager today is that he is already working on a new sign for the building.
That's right.
And so that should satisfy that. And those were the main things that were discussed. It seemed like, to me, everyone was in agreement and we're moving forward in a positive direction. So no formal request from the town.
You said Mr. Thomas was gonna be, is he gonna volunteer or how are we gonna do that? He said volunteer or?
At this time, we haven't really come up with a structure necessarily. I think that he was willing to, and I don't want to put words into his mouth, but it seemed, he certainly is interested and wants to do things. But his statement was, certainly he's one person, and he can't do everything. He does have other things as well, but he did seem to be interested in volunteering to be able to train some new volunteers to be able to work at the museum.
The three of those four are great. We're going to pay the parking lot, we're going to get new signage, and we got volunteers to look at staff in the museum. The blacksmith shop remains limbo because right now, until you get volunteers on weekends, there's no need building another shop where we'll have to take turns acting like the blacksmith or whatever the blacksmith, I just, not trying to belittle, but I just, but anyway, thanks for your diligence on this, because I think the town legally, and you would agree, we're pretty good ground now.
Yes, I would agree, and I believe that VDOT, from their remarks and what they approved, would agree as well.
I think the good news is with this tourism committee that we're going to meet next Tuesday, our first kickoff meeting, there's some hope on the horizon, I think, for staffing. And that's good news. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Moving right along, Mr. Town Manager, can we fly through these buildings? Center Street and Doswell Street buildings have been removed.
Gone.
Two outstanding meals taxes.
Friday, one paid, and the other one paid today.
All righty.
Yesterday, they don't pay.
Street improvement projects, Mr. Town Manager, I see we're not going to repave the center turn lane on Main Street. Going to leave that as it is.
We are gonna leave that as it is. We received a $458,000 grant to work on South Main Street between 6th Street and 8th Street. Sadly, the pavement was not gonna last that long, okay? That is just a patch. It's a very thin 1.5 inch milling, and that is intended to get us to 2021, nothing more, okay? Because that section, for the most part, not all the way to 10th Street, but certainly the section from 6th to 8th is supposed to be dug back up. Sadly, we didn't have asphalt that was gonna make it that long. It really deteriorated over the past winter, especially at the turn lanes there at West Entrance Road. Doesn't look all that high. Greg Warner's coming to paint the lines, but that area will be milled out within the next 2 years. It's even thinner than typical. Typically, it would be a 2-inch overlay. We just did 1.5 inches because I'm really looking for 2 years.
So what happened last week was basically an attempt to buy some time.
Buy some time.
All right, I had several people, some of whom I think used to work for the town. What can you tell the public about manhole covers? I've had several people say, man, every time y'all...
Man, that one that'll hurt you down there.
Yes.
What I think happened was they didn't mill out around the manhole, and so they just added 1.5 inches on top of the little bit of asphalt. They gotta come back.
Okay, very good, very good.
Contractor's happy to do it, not a problem, but, I rode down through there trying to figure out what they were complaining. There's one down there around the Catholic Church.
Catholic Church, that's right.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
That's not a really acceptable one, but.
The West Entrance Road turn lane though is much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that manhole's a little bit of a shocker. That's just giving us a couple of years. We hope in 2021 we'll be actually renovating that section of South Main Street from 6th Street to just past 8th Street where the culvert comes onto the road from the church and goes in between Rick's and Community Convenience.
Gotcha.
We may also overlay that section down to 10th Street, but we're also applying for, so folks know, we are in the process of applying for a revenue share project to run sidewalk, curb, and gutter all the way down to Fair Street, which is the entrance in Walmart. Okay? On one side of the road.
It's the southern entrance of Walmart, isn't it, or is it
The northern.
the
entrance.
northern, the first entrance? Okay, if you're
First
coming,
entrance.
okay.
We can go farther.
All right.
It's just how far the money gonna take us. Now, we're staying away from the side over at Clay's, not because we don't wanna make a mud hole in front of their place, but it's very steep.
It
and
makes
overhead
sense.
utilities.
But when I walk up, I finally get to Fair Street, and now I'm like, okay, now I gotta cross this death trap to get to my Walmart over there. We're gonna have push button or something
There's
on
gotta
it.
be something, either go all the way to the traffic signal and use that as a change, or we're gonna have to put something there for.
Like, it may even have to put brick crosswalks in the road or something, just to really make it obvious to people. All right.
We'll get that going, but, please don't think it's gonna look like a zebra stripe forever.
No, that's fine.
It's just 2 years until we can get through. We had the pavers in town. We saved the money to do it. The pavers are also the same contract that's supposed to do a lot of the work in the East End when we finish.
This
the
is
roads.
Landco. Landco, all right. Wigglesworth Complex, the TAP 21. Looks like things are moving forward.
Moving forward, it looks like we're gonna be able to go ahead and bid, the project here very shortly. We, received notification from George. If I say it, George Baker Mayfield, I think is the lady's name at VDOT, and we expect within the next 30 days we'll put the project out.
Do you think we could, once ball season winds down, we can complete enough to get it paved within this season?
I hope that.
That's what our
Certainly
goal
what I'd
should
like to
be.
do.
You say get it paved, you're talking about the parking area?
No, the road in front.
Where we're doing okay, gotcha.
In front of LCC DC, the volleyball court, all that.
Oh, yeah, okay. On the, moving right along, yes, absolutely, please, always. Be safe, be safe. On the utility upgrade, number 5, Mr. Town Manager,
Portion of the project in the alley is done and being completed and accepted.
behind Moncur Insurance in Acapulco.
And we also, in the same contract, we added the asphalt behind the town square. Okay, that was included and was, we already had their unit prices, so we just continued on with the